All right, we are back. Well, we got a couple videos actually completed. That'll be coming out in the next week or two, as well as we've added a new team member, Travis. It's actually Courtney's brother. He is a part of Axonol now on a full-time basis. We're extremely excited about that, as we're going to be able to push and develop new items that we've been working towards for a long time. So in this video, we're going to work on straight edging, and this can be done, in a variety of ways. There's so many ways to do it. I'm going to show you the way that we started doing it, which is this, as you see here on the floor. But this can be done, on a tabletop. It can be done on a folding table. It can be done anywhere. So prior to putting this side of leather down, we swept the floor, obviously keeping things clean so we don't scratch up the finished side of the leather is a goal for us. And with this video, it's truly a learning topic, as this is something Travis has never done. So this is actually his first time putting a straight edge on a side. So as this is being done, you can see, as somebody that's never done it before, it's definitely a possibility, and it's not that challenging. It is a daunting task because you've spent a good chunk of money on a shoulder, a double back, whatever it is you're using. Here we're using a side of leather. So you don't want to make a mistake. And we understand that. When we first started, we were the exact same position, terrified. So basic tools for this, you could see the blue cutting mat in the top right corner. We have a long straight edge. You can find these at Home Depot, Lowe's, all places. I'm unsure if Weaver sells them or not, but I'm sure they do. Get creative with that. You can use anything for the straight edge. So working on the ground, I mentioned earlier, prep your surface just so you're not scratching up your leather, and put your straight edge down. When you put that straight edge down, you're putting it at the lowest part of that piece of leather. So what you're cutting off is, I wouldn't call it waste because it's not really waste, but what you're cutting off is the least amount possible. So you're going to see marks where the leather was hung, when it was tanned, when it was dried. There's going to be marks along the top edge where you're going to strap. On sides, we strap at the spine, the upper portion of the side. So not the belly, the spine. We'll work from the spine down. It depends on your project with shoulders and double shoulders, depending on which direction you're going to put the straight edge on. If your strap lengths that you're wanting to yield are long straps, then obviously you're going to straight edge on the longest side, if that makes sense. If not, leave a comment below and I'll do my best to help answer that. So the first thing here with that straight edge being down, using body mechanics, your knees, your hands to hold it straight. I'm actually, as I'm holding the camera here for Travis, I'm actually also holding the straight edge for him. And what he's doing here, don't cringe, he's not cutting the floor. He's just scoring the leather with the straight edge. So this is the technique that I found helpful when we used to cut straight edges on sides on the floor. I would use the straight edge, score it the entire way, and then come back and put the cutting mat, that blue mat that you see, underneath the side, and then cut your score. Obviously you're dragging it along with you, so depending on how long your cutting mat is, if it's 20 inches, you're cutting 20-inch sections at a time. If it's 4 inches, well, you're going to be moving it a lot. So keep that in mind. So as you're making this cut, you're going to get off. It's going to happen. Just go back and clean it up. Grab a smaller ruler and make your cut straight. With the strap cutter or whatever device you're using to cut this into straps or strips, I guess we should say, it's going to, depending on what you're using, is going to depend on how straight you really need that edge. For a wooden hand strap cutter, you're going to want this thing as straight as you can get it. If you're using a machine strap cutter, you're going to have leeway for how much waste is at that straight edge, if that makes sense. And when you see that in the next video where we do strap cutting, you're going to understand it more. But obviously the goal is to try and get this thing as straight as possible. So I'm going to show you here the other technique that we use now for doing straight edges. I think it's important to learn, from the ground up with any skills in any trade, and Leatherworks, no exception. So teaching Travis to do the method of on the floor I thought was important because not everyone has access to a 4x8 table. We recently just got this table. It's been, I think, about 2 or 3 months that we've had it. Phenomenal tool. It is great to have, but when we were working off of our kitchen island and our kitchen table in our previous shop space, we didn't have that luxury. So don't think that you have to have it. So the sides are laid on the table, spine towards the side that I'm going to cut, and I just take these clamps here to clamp the side down to the table. You can use a straight edge with the clamps, so the straight edge would be on top of the leather, and the clamps would be clamping all of it together. For us, the cut top that we purchased was 1.25 inches deep. So I'm able to just guide the blade along the edge of the table to get that straight edge. And you can see here how fast it's done. It's definitely much faster than doing it on the floor. But obviously, again, not everyone has access to a table this size. And we didn't up until about 2 months ago. So, if you do have access to something this big, by all means, I recommend using it. It's not that it yields a better outcome by any means. It's just, it's definitely more efficient. Without a doubt. So you see there, I just did that one side in about a third of the time that it would take to do one on the floor. Again, I'm taking the clamps, pulling the leather flat. The table is going to be my guide for the blade. And I'm going to start with a purchase point while doing my best to hold the blade straight up and down, parallel to the cut surface, and I'm just going to drag that blade along the edge. And obviously, if you have a straight edge here as well, you're performing the exact same thing. The difference is you're using the straight edge as your guide, whereas here I'm using the cut top as the guide. So the size of that top piece that you cut off to establish your straight edge, it's going to dictate based on how deep into the side you have to cut. It's not trash by any means. You just need to go through it and work around the holes that are there from where it was hung to dry and the tanning process. So that's really it on straight edging. It's just something that it is very simple to do. You just got to figure out which technique works for you. If you have any questions on how to do it, comment below. Be happy to answer them. Outside of that, the next video coming up will be on strap cutting, where we talk about using from the most basic tools to something like this, a machine strap cutter. By no means a necessity. This can all be achieved with hand tools, but for efficiency and consistency, this tool adds a lot of value. Until then, we'll see you next time. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video. It helps us with growing the channel and reaching a wider audience. And we look forward to creating this content. Have a great week.